Today we're going to read a story called Let's Go Eeling, written by Mercedes Jones and illustrated by Crystal Starr. The season was changing. The rain had stopped and the sun was now in the sky. The bugs began to come out and ants were beginning to fly. The days were getting longer and we just had our first hot night. All of this meant it was time to go catch skockwool. I have never been eeling before, but Papa said I would learn this year. Every year, Papa, Mama, Uncle, and Brother would go to the Willamette Falls to catch skockwool. Mama and Papa told me and my brother stories of how Coyote built Willamette Falls to help the tribes catch salmon there. Before, I always had to stay with Grandma because I was too little to go, but this year, I get to learn how to catch skockwool. We will travel to Willamette Falls, catch skockwool, and return home all in one day. We will go eeling 3 days in a row. Before we go, we have to pack the things we will need. We will need a skockwool ik stick and an oopquinna to carry the skockwool. On the way, we will stop and pick salmon berries to eat as snacks. I was getting excited. Before bed, Papa told us the story of why skockwool have no bones. We will leave when the sun comes up. Get some sleep so you can be well rested for our long day tomorrow. Tomorrow, you will learn how to catch skockwool, said Papa. I closed my eyes and drifted off to sleep. Morning came and it was time to go eeling. Papa, Mama, Brother, and Uncle were all ready to go. I followed right behind Papa. Papa carried the skockwool ik stick over his shoulder. Uncle and Mama carried the oopquinna. We stopped and picked salmon berries on our way to the tumwada. As we got closer, I could hear the tumwada. I could hear the water gushing over the rocks and crashing down into the large pool below. I began to imagine what the skockwool would feel like when I caught them. Would it be easy? Would they feel slimy? I was ready to start eeling. We arrived at Willamette Falls. Mama and Brother went one way to a slower flowing stream. Uncle took the skockwool ik stick and crossed the water to the other side. He reached behind the tumwada with the skockwool ik stick and hooked a skockwool. He brought the stick back hand over hand, taking the skockwool off the hook and putting it into his oopquinna. I followed Papa up the rocks that were next to the tumwada. They were covered in skockwool. The skockwool were suction cupped to the rocks, trying to make their way up the tumwada. I reached out to grab a skockwool. Papa quickly stopped me. When catching skockwool, you never grab one at the front. You always grab a skockwool from the back of the group. They are smart and have a good nose. And if they see you take one of their friends, they will all scatter, and then we won't be able to catch any skockwool, he said. Papa began to show me how to catch skockwool. Do you see where the gills are? Their gills are those 7 round holes on the sides of their body, Papa said. The skockwool feel soft right there. Grab the skockwool right behind their gills and hold tight. They are slippery and they will wiggle, and then throw them into the oopquinna. Papa reached out and grabbed a skockwool right off the rock and tossed it into the oopquinna. It was my turn. I reached my hand into the tumwada and felt the skockwool. They were oily, and I grabbed that skockwool tightly and pulled it away from the rock. I got a skockwool, I said. Just then, the skockwool slipped out of my hand and backed into the tumwada. I looked at Papa. It's okay. Try again, said Papa. I reached back into the tumwada. I grabbed another skockwool with both hands. It wiggled and it wrapped around my arm. I quickly put it into the oopquinna and looked at Papa. He was smiling at me. Our basket was filling up with skockwool now. We spent all day catching skockwool. When we arrived home, I counted the skockwool. We had caught 50 skockwool. And the second day, we went back to Willamette Falls and caught 75 more. On the third day, we caught 100 more skockwel. I was an expert skockwel catcher. We arrived at home after the last day of eeling and began to prepare the skockwel to be preserved. We cut up the skockwel and put it on the stick and roasted it over the fire. It tasted so good. Everyone liked it except Grandma. She never did like the taste of skockwel. After our bellies were full, we smoked the rest of the skockwel so we could save it for the winter time. Papa and Mama hugged me goodnight. Good night, my son. You caught many skockwel and have provided for your family. And for that, I am very proud of you, said Papa. Throughout the story, you probably heard some words that didn't sound familiar or you had no idea what they meant. Those 4 words were in Chinook Wawa, which is Grand Ronde's tribal language. Those words were skockwel, which means eel, dumwada, which means waterfall, upquena, which means basket, and skockwel ik stick, which means eeling stick. Eel, or Pacific lamprey, or now you know them as skockwel, have been an important species to the people of the Confederated tribes of Grand Ronde since time immemorial. Pre-reservation, many tribes would travel to different streams and waterfalls to harvest eel for both food and medicinal purposes. Willamette Falls was a significant place for the natives to harvest eel, as there was an abundant supply. It is believed that Coyote made Willamette Falls specifically to benefit tribal people. Today, harvesting eel at Willamette Falls is still practiced by tribal members.